Hey, everybody. Long time no see. Happy Thursday to everybody. It's been really nice fall weather out there. I haven't been around for a while. I've been distracted with other stuff, but I'm here to do another, well, kind of a different show. So, since the election is now pretty much right around the corner, I figured I'd get into some of the discussions that have been going on, and what's going on in the news, and a lot of it is probably coming up in the chat. So I'm going to get in here and take a look and see what people are saying in here and say hello. Uh, Peter was the first one here. Good to see you, Peter. Wait, I'm first. How can that be? I don't know. But it's good to see you. Michael Deaton's here. Good to see you as well. The pollsters admit they've been weighing towards Trump because they're afraid of having him having a hidden vote again. In my humble opinion, GOP turnout is low this go around, and Trump underperforms. Could be. I think. Who is it? Michael Moore would agree with you on that. These people dumped 30 million into Poly Market to get it slanted back to Trump. I had not heard of that. So Michael Deaton is predicting. Read it here first. Harris 52, Trump 47. That could be. Then again, it could be Trump 52, Harris 47. The thing that I'm finding kind of interesting about the polls with this particular case, there's been a lot of action on this whole thing, and it's super close. And how could that possibly be? It may not be. Nate Silver came out. Nate Silver of 538.com came out with an opinion piece for the New York Times saying there's a very good chance that this could be slanted so that one of the candidates runs away with all of the battleground states and effectively has something like a clean sweep blowout kind of thing. Maybe not like a Reagan style victory. Who was the candidate that he beat? Where he basically just swept the board. But it could be close. And right now, where they're at, they can't really tell. What is interesting me is that you see the statistics showing that Trump is gaining in some of the battleground states that were traditionally favored Democrats, like the Rust Belt and the typical Blue Belt kind of areas. But then you don't really see him gaining much more in areas where he should be favored, in the Southwest and in the Southeast. So it's close both ways. And that's where I think there's something's going on with the polling that I don't quite understand, other than the fact that they select likely voters, and likely voters can mean different things for different polling places. And they, a lot of it still relies on just making cold calls and hoping people pick up the phone. And how many people are going to do that if their phone's saying scam likely? Let me see here. Pinworm is here. Good to see you. Let's see. Jim is here. I bet the idiot wins. Okay. He's predicting a Trump win. Could be. This is the dumbest possible timeline. So never counted out the corruption and competence in Trump campaign is so total. So I just don't think he can. 2016 was luck. I mean, it surprised them. I mean, it certainly surprised them. And she did get more. But the polls were remarkably wrong predicting. I mean, even Nate Silver was on, I think, 2 weeks before the 2016 election and 1 month before, predicting, she's got a 75-80% chance she's going to win it. And he didn't. And it's not how it worked. He managed to get it. I mean, even they were kind of gobsmacked when the announcements came in. Let's see. I do think that new voters, especially new women voters, voting on the issues that have been brought up because of Republicans' positions on reproductive health, abortion, these kinds of things, I don't think those are getting enough attention, and I don't think they're being represented in the polls accurately. But that's just me. I'm not a pollster, so I don't know. Fabio's here. Good to see you, Fabio. I still don't understand how this election is even a thing. The fact that it's this close, given the Trump being there, is beyond me. Well, the other thing that has been bothering me for months going into this, especially the last 3 or 4 months, has been the kind of right-wing creatures that have come out in support of Donald are talking about him in the same kind of tones as before. Well, he's a business guy. Let's give him a chance. Like, we had him as a president. Do you not remember the 4 years he was our guy? He was our president for 4 years, and he was not popular by the time things were wrapping up. We did not like him. Not even just Democrats. Like, a lot of Republicans did not like him. And now they're acting like, oh, he's the new and improved flavor. Like, no, he's not. He's a dusty old coot who was our president before and did not do a good job. If the Republican Party had any spine or any tact or class or principles, they never would have run him again. They would not allow him in the party. The only reason they're doing this is that they know that he's petulant enough. He would run a spoiler campaign to the right of them, and they would both lose. So rather than do that, it's a devil you know kind of scenario. TK's here. Good to see you, TK. Let's see. Vic Litt is here. Good to see you. Literally all the media has been doing in the last 2 weeks is the electoral equivalent of, and it's neck and neck in the final stretch. And there is actually there's a point I wanted to make about this, because there is something to be said about this. I thought it was weird about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, there was an article that popped up, and it came out of the Daily Mail, a UK publication, right? And it was like, well, some of our analysts showed that Donald Trump has a 13-point lead. If I were Donald Trump's campaign, I would be contacting them like, you need to pull that right now from at least our markets. You don't need to be doing that, because as soon as you start saying like, hey, our candidate is so far ahead, you might as well go have a cup of tea. That's a good way to encourage low turnout, right? You're actively discouraging voting at that point. So don't do that. It wasn't around for long. It wouldn't surprise me if the Trump campaign maybe reached out to the Daily Mail or others that tried to release that info. I'm like, hey, stop that. That's not what we want. It is better for both campaigns if the narrative and the marketing is on this. It's anybody's guess, because it will encourage a lot of turnout. And it is. I mean, the turnout is already big. So let's see. Maya is here. Good to see you. I think some of these are in the wrong order, or I'm just that far behind. Let's see. I know I'm going to miss a few people. There's a lot of comments on here. I am of the opinion the incompetence and corruption is total, and it makes it impossible for Trump to organize a winning campaign anymore. I mean, a lot of the organizing, I think, is any organization that's happening for his campaign is happening in spite of him, clearly. I think, actually, I'm going to say something that probably a lot of my viewers are probably not going to like, but I think it might actually be more effective for him to be doing like the McDonald's stunts, at least for some people that are undecided or, leaning conservative, given the fact I have a theory that most of what I think people in their head have this idea, because they were tricked by reality TV, that because he was displayed as a successful business person for 12 to 14 years on a reality show on network TV, that there's some truth to that. And there really isn't. He was a clown. But there's just enough, I think, media naivete still in a broad section of the population where people are like, oh yeah, I know him from the show. Where they think that there's something there, as opposed to before that. I think the only TV people knew him from would be like, either the news, a talk show. He'd show up on like, Sadly Jesse or something like that for a segment, or Phil Donahue. I'm dating myself. I still remember those shows. Never watched them. Too young, but or you'd see him on like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. That was it, or he'd have a small cameo in a movie. Yeah, he does a decade's worth of TV, and people are just like, well, I think he can really do something about the economy. Like, no, I think that's your TV-addled mind messing with you. He can't. We had him for a while as president, and we were teetering towards recession real quick. And then COVID hit, and then COVID was to blame for the immediate drastic recession that we hit. But like, yeah, that was the kind of the sudden iceberg, which wasn't that sudden either. If people remember that, news was started coming out of China, I think, in late October, early November, and then like the first ship of people showed up, and I was like, "Are they gonna quarantine?" Oh no, cameras are there. No, they're not gonna quarantine them correctly. Okay, I guess we're getting sick now, and sure enough, we did. Okay. It would have been great if he fished the fries from the fryer with his hands. It was so weird to me. He was telling people that he was surprised by that. He's like, that was something that I never liked. The idea that they handled the fries with their hands. Like that was never a thing. So like you were still eating at McDonald's because you thought it was safer, and you were under the impression that all the people there handled the fries with their bare hands. Yeah, I agree with this from Dayton. The Mickey D's thing felt like to me like a Dukakis in the tank. Yeah. If anyone doesn't know that, there is a great spoof of that on The Simpsons where Burns does that. That's Mr. Burns in the oversized helmet riding a tank. This is an aggressive prediction. First of all, good to see you, 8:30. He's going to check back later. Good to see you. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for the shout out. Red Fang, good to see you. He says it's going to be Harris 316 to Trump 156. Electoral college vote. Okay. Are you thinking Texas or Florida or both, Red Fang? Yeah. So Vic says, I saw a stupid poll with triple digits on that in the politics Discord server. The question was, who do you think is closer to the people? 146 Trump versus 62 Harris. Given that you were on Discord, that does not surprise me. I mean, it's Discord. It's not. If you look at the statistics for like politics server and stuff like that, I think the majority of them are conservative, or much worse. Okay, so I do have a few things I'll get into. So the first thing I wanted to point out, I have some resources in the description for this video. So there's a couple things in there for like iwillvote.com is on there. Good place to go to. If you have not voted, it's not, depending on what state you're in, you may have early voting. You may still have plenty of time to show up and vote early in person, or you can vote by absentee ballot. Again, totally depends on your state. Some states do not make it easy, but if you're not sure, if you have questions, iwillvote.com is pretty good, or .org is nice, because you can put in your state's information and get all the info on there. Information above that is from the Secretary of State or Department of State .gov. That's the federal site, but it's got links to other state info as well. So those are pretty good ones for getting started. If if you're uncomfortable, I think most people that are watching my show, at least watching it now, no, but I'm doing this as a form of like some kind of volunteer thing. This beats having to go door to door, or make phone calls, which I have to do for my work. So the idea of doing that after hours, well, I mean, I should do it. I should probably sign up for some phone banking. But anyway, I'm doing this to hopefully get the word out. So if anybody's watching this, that's what this is, boosting. Get out and vote, and don't vote for Republicans. Don't vote for Trump. Am I biased? Of course I am. But Republicans screwed up. They backed a pig, and they should pay for it at the ballot boxes. Dahanji, I already voted for Kamala in Florida. Good for you. I hope it counts this time. There's nothing more frustrating than voting for the Democrat in a predominantly red state. Everyone from Oklahoma, you know what I'm talking about. Looks like Red Fang already voted as well. Michael Leeds, I could see him losing Florida or Texas if things just go wildly sideways in the next 2 weeks. I mean, yeah, I think some of the stuff that's come up, like the October surprise and things like that, haven't been that big of a surprise, but I'll get into that in just a bit here. Some of the other resources that I have on there, I have The link to 538's polling, take some of that with a grain of salt. And then 270 to win, which I think may actually be more accurate, or like has been more accurate in the past. But both of those are for forecasts and polls. I would really, really take those all with a big grain of salt right now. The polls are swinging a lot, and I think the media cycle is looking to squeeze every click and view and get every eyeball involved in this entire situation, while there's still 2 weeks left to harvest your eyeballs, your attention, and your anxiety. So most of everything is going to be. There was an article that I read where it said something like, Democrats just don't know how to deal with why they're losing so badly. And it's like, no one's losing anything yet. We have no way of knowing where independent voters are voting in the early states. And I think we have, 27 million votes cast? There's probably going to be close to, what is it, usually about half. What are we going to be, between 150 and 190 million people voting? It's still anybody's guess. I mean, anybody's that's writing headlines like that, those people can go straight to hell. That makes absolutely no sense. Holy hell, a long time since I've watched a live one. Well, it's been a long time since I've been on live, so not really, not your fault. Mr. Lump agreed. Waited 1/5 hours to vote in Hayes County with mostly Trumpers. Painful. Ooh, yeah. These are where I'm at now. I think I'm not sure. Actually, where I'm at now might the district that I'm in might go Trump. It's a little bit more conservative. It's been purple for a little while, but I'm in Michigan, and Michigan's always in the headlines because it's like, oh, that's that's one of those swing states that both of them have to win, or if they lose it, they have to pick up Pennsylvania or something like that. However they game it out, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of breathless forecasting going on right up until the end. The thing that's really making me nervous about this reminds me of Bush v. Gore, from what I remembered. And Bush v. Gore, the coverage on it was so bad. And then there was the whole subsequent collapse of like who actually won. And then we spent weeks trying to determine that. And then it turned into the Supreme Court case that will forever stain us. But then there's been so many bad ones since then that it's practically nothing. This is pretty good. New Jersey early voting starts on Saturday and is every day, including Sunday, until Election Day. Very cool. My family and I will be voting Saturday morning for Harris. Cool. Everyone else should follow suit. Get to New Jersey. Vote in New Jersey. They'll let you do it. Just kidding. I still like to pick on New Jersey a little bit. Yeah, and again, you don't even have to look for early voting if you don't want to. If you can find a place, if you're in a state where they fortunately handle like absentee ballots or anything like that fairly easy, not a bad way to go. If you're worried about them being interrupted, messed with or anything like that, then maybe early voting's good. If you don't mind waiting in line for a little bit. That was 1.5 hours. Ugh, 1.5 hours. Good. That's not good. Not good service for the voters in your area, but that's probably the point. I'm thinking. Let's see. Yeah, so let's see. Polls going weird. Lots of editorials that are out of control. The vibe, the gut check stuff that's been going on. Basically, the whole thing is, I think Alan Lichtman has predicted that it's going to be a Harris victory. I don't think he's changed his mind on that. Nate Harris, am I getting that right? Nate Silver, Harris. Nate Silver is predicting a Harris defeat. Like he's still in his editorial. He's still like, it's way too close to call. The polls could really go either way. It could be a blowout for either one of them, but his gut tells him it's Trump. And I'm wondering if maybe some of that isn't affected by the fact that he really missed it in 2016. And then on top of that, or Michael Moore is his take on it, I think, is actually a little bit more convincing. His take is simply that he believes that because polls are looking at likely voters, and generally likely voters are determined, again, it's dependent on the polling agency, polling company. Some are determined just by asking people if they're planning to vote, which they could be lying. And another version is some of them might dig a little deeper and try to find demographic information about people who voted in like at least the last 2 consecutive elections, or maybe the last 3 if they want to get strict. And then they'll try to contact them by phone to get their answer. That, as you can probably predict, that really starts shrinking the size of the group that you have. And if they're not willing to answer a call that probably says, scam likely, it's going to be difficult to actually tabulate any kind of results. And so a lot of that, I think, is just kind of, there's a lot of projection in that and a lot of guesswork. And with the way this one has been going in terms of like new people signing up and the attention that this election has gotten from women specifically, who may not, especially if they're first time voters, it remains to be seen if any of that has been factored into any of the polls. I really don't think it has. I think that they're so concerned about getting it wrong on Republican turnout side that they might be undercounting the Democratic turnout side. This could end up being kind of a national version of the Kansas vote to protect abortion at the state level that happened, was that after the midterms, before the midterms, somewhere? It was a special election. And it was something like 68% It was a number that nobody predicted. They just did not think that there was enough Kansas voters to actually push it in that direction. Overwhelmingly pushed it, defeated that conservative abortion ban, made big news. So, yeah. And yes, the commercials are getting terrible. All right. So with that being said, I think we could probably I do want to put a question out to everybody in there. So let's just do this. I'm not going to ask you guys who you voted for. Some of you have admitted it, or have said that. I'm not going to ask you who you're voting for, but I do wonder, just to play kind of like amateur political scientist. Who do you think is going to win, Trump or Harris? And just throw it up in the chat and see. I'm just kind of curious to see. I mean, there's about 40 people watching right now. I think, base in mind, I think a lot of people are hoping that it's going to be Harris, of those viewers that are watching right now. But honestly, like, what's your gut check? I'm just curious. So, yeah, this is a good question. At this point, do you think anything at all could turn his followers against him? Based on the stuff that has just come out, like the whole I want generals like Hitler had, and there's another story that came out that he essayed a girl who was kind of set up in a meeting with him by Epstein. That's floating around out there now as well. Those will not do it. They don't care about that. I think that they will use whatever's going on in their brain to either justify that or to count it, discount it in some way, whatever. But okay, I am getting a lot of Harris's from the gut check, but thanks for that question, JL. And good to see it, by the way. I need to catch your last one. I missed it last week. I think it was last week. I should say your last recorded one. I know I missed a lot of your live one. So God equals says Madam President, Harris. Good to see you, John Fabiano. Anamorphic Mind, too close to tell. I'm kind of there, even as a gut check. I'm too close to tell, leaning Trump. Unfortunately, I'm sort of, but I'm a pessimist. I'm kind of leaning toward the idea that I'm going to be unpleasantly surprised that week. Michael D, I honestly believe Harris is going to win. Many do. Nicole Wilson, Harris, Kludge, Max Ramos, Harris, but it'll be closer than Biden. Okay. I think Harris about the same as 2020, loses Nevada but wins North Carolina. That's interesting because I was thinking it might go the other way, but you might be right. The fact that it's close is the fact that it's close is really actually what's bothering me the most. And I got to credit that with how the media has done the most sane washing of this idiot that I've ever seen. There's no reason why the media should not be scorching the Republican Party for having Trump as a candidate. Ever. Like they should not stop. Like if this were anyone else, he would not be your party's pick. With this background, a convicted felon, an adjudicated sexual offender. Are you kidding? Like, yeah, but he's a rich celebrity. He was on TV for over a decade. So that's what's doing it. Oh, and an enormous amount of class and race and misogynistic resentment. So there's a lot of stuff going on there where I know a lot of people, especially conservatives, they don't want to deal with that. Like, no, it wasn't. We didn't get Trump because of some racist whiplash after 8 years of Obama. Exit polls demonstrate that is exactly what happened. There were a lot of people that did not like the fact that we had him as a president. So you know who we need? Older, rich white guy. I'm on the fence. We'll get off the fence. DeHaan says she will win 4 to 5 of the 7 swing states. I'm thinking Robinson is so bad in North Carolina that it will drag down Trump. That could be. Yeah. There was a couple of different gut punches that happened in 2020, though. I'm wanting to avoid another gut punch like 2016. 2020 was a pleasant surprise, despite how certain I was Trump would win. But I don't assume. I'm seeing a lot of dirty plays from the GOP in Texas. Well, yeah. But holy hell, Colin Aldra is taking Ted Cruz by storm. I'm actually thinking there's a chance more so than Beto or Rourke. Yeah, I think that would be a hell of a thing if Allred wins. This whole Trump era last 10 years has been the sideshow Bob becomes mayor of Springfield Simpsons episode times 10. Yeah, it kind of has. All right. So I think with that, that kind of covers it. So please check. If you haven't voted, get out and vote. If you can't get out and vote, check out getting an absentee ballot. Vote that way. If you can't do that, then I guess you just have to wait until election day and vote on the day if that's where, what your state's got planned. But in the meantime, does anybody want to see me take on a 5-day-old video that Doug made about a section of our conversation from 3 weeks ago? I have a feeling it's going to be pretty pointless, but I kind of want to take a look at it. I mean, he made it for me, and I did include his name. I tagged his name in the title. So, you need to stop looking at national polls. You need to look at the local polls. When you see a Democrat that's up 20 points, it will show you the better numbers. That's interesting. That could be. Yeah, I know that there was a guy that I was watching who was talking about national polls, and there was really only about 7 or 8 that he was like, these are the only ones that are kind of reliable, but they're still really conservative. And because they're capturing a national picture, they're still going to have this big swing to them. Local ones can do better. So let's see here. Let me get this on screen. Okay, so here we go. Are 70% of asylum seekers full of SH asterisk T? Why am I saying it that way? Asterisk T. How dare you cast aspersions? So, okay. I have a feeling there's going to be some comments in here I'll end up reading, at least the response to somebody down here who's kind of giving me some credit. This is part of what we talked about. I'm kind of curious to see how he's going to edit this. So I'm going to speed it up a little bit. I'm going to speed it up to 1.5 because I've heard it. If it's going too fast, give me a yell in the comments and I'll slow it back down. Let's make sure sound is still working. I like Doug's new short about earning immigration. Yeah, I saw that one. I'm not subscribed to him, so I happened to catch. I got like a notification for one of them, and when I pulled up that one, I was like, I don't know how we're different on that. Like immigration and asylum are 2 different things. I don't know how many times I have to tell this dude. These are 2 different things. He just, because in his head, he thinks asylum is this kind of, cowardly way of sneaking around the immigrant. You don't have to earn it. You come in and you cry to the libs that your country's bad. It's like the ones that get in here are coming in here because like somebody's actively trying to kill them. Like 70% of them get turned away, which is what we're talking about here. And for whatever reason, during that conversation, he decided that, like, well, if 70% of them are being rejected by a judge, that means 70% of them are full of crap. And that didn't make any sense to me. So I'll get into this and see we'll see what he's done with his editing magic here.
That when they are adjudicated in a court of law, which you might disagree with, they're saying they claimed asylum and they were full of shit. 70% of refugees who claim asylum, the court says they're full of shit.
That is not what the court says, which I'll probably get into right now.
The court does not say that they're full of shit. The court decides they don't meet the legal requirements to be considered a refugee and they are deported. That doesn't mean that they're not.
This is the equivalent of saying, look, I have good reason to believe that someone somewhere is stealing my mail because I'm not getting my mail anymore. And I should have gotten at least something in the last 2 weeks. Nothing has arrived. I suspect that someone's stealing it, right? But I have no way of proving it. Because I can't prove it, my claim that someone is stealing my mail, I'm full of shit. That doesn't make any sense. Now, I just can't prove it, or I could be mistaken. Even if someone found out, if I said, yeah, it turns out I thought that someone might have been stealing my mail, but what it actually turned out was that a very kind of anal retentive mail person, my mail got, my particular mailbox got a little overcrowded, and they cut off mail service to me. So that wasn't getting stolen. It just wasn't getting delivered. A too long call to the post office, and I got my mail returned to me. Would anyone still say, so when you said it was getting stolen, you were full of shit? Like, no, I was wrong. Like, I don't understand why he's doing this other than to try to wind me up. But it's like, look, can you find a less childish way to do this? Like that court said that those people were full of shit. Like, are they literally in a kangaroo court? Like, what kind of court does he think they're going to?
Doug, do you understand? Full of shit. It's just a word, flowery way of saying it.
Okay, it's an inaccurate way of describing what happened. They don't meet the requirements of being refugees. It's not that they're full of crap. It's that they don't meet the requirements and their petition for asylum is denied.
What if the people don't realize the nuance of what makes a refugee and what doesn't? You do realize they ratcheted that up with the executive order,
I'm talking about the courts, and you admitted it earlier.
That's what I'm talking about too. It's part of the rule.
Of refugees who come in and claim asylum are full of shit.
That is not what that means. If you think
it's not. He's just being a cranky old man at this point. Did you see one for Doug's more like-minded subs push back on him about this video in the comment section? About this particular video? Well, I think it's just below it. I think it'll be the one that I read here. If I get to it.
Think that you are an ignorant asshole. It does not mean that they're full of shit. It means they got denied. You can't assume.
That's what I mean when I say full of shit.
Get out of here.
You're getting triggered by the phrase shit
because you're acting like
he's completely misrepresenting an entire group of people by saying if these people are denied their claims, it was because they were full of crap. He knows what he's doing. Like that would not hold up for him. That would be like him. I'm like, yeah, I went to court because I had a complaint against a neighbor of mine. They found they found that what I was bringing in terms of a complaint, it wasn't enough to justify them ruling that he owes me damages. And then the judge hit the hammer and said, "You're full of shit, Doug. You made this whole thing up just to chisel money out of your neighbor." Would Doug appreciate that? Doug's dead inside, so I'm sure he would love it.
Ignorant uncle at Thanksgiving.
Let me be more
an administrative court decides out of 70% of the time that these people are not going to be considered refugees. It does not mean that the people did not make an honest pitch and claim like, yes.
I didn't say that. Sure, they made an honest pitch for it, but then the court decided that what they claim as refugee status is not really refugee status. That's what I mean by full of shit.
That doesn't mean that they're full of shit. It means either they're wrong and they don't meet that requirement, or it means they can't substantiate the level of evidence required to establish that requirement. Are they being pursued by by their government or by a military or some kind of group within their government that their government can't control and is actively trying to kill them because of their race, their religion, their social position, something? Here's a good one. Let's say that there was a violent revolution in a Central American country, and it was led by a group of incredibly radical. This is a question for Doug if he happens to see this. They're an incredibly radical group of left-wing, like kind of labor socialists. They're going to bring labor back. They're going to bring back democratized economies, right? And they're going to do this forcibly. They're tired of voting. They're tired. The democratic process has been corrupted and usurped by wealthy elites. And so what they're going to do is they're gonna use force, and they're gonna go after the wealthy, a whole eat the rich kind of scenario, right? So the wealthy, this gets out of control. Very popular. Let's say 60 to 70% of the population is part of this group, and they just rise up and they're going after the wealthiest. Oh, let's say 1%, just the 1%. Would Doug be in favor of allowing those people to come here as asylum seekers? Like they don't have any real need to ever come. They're filthy rich. They could escape if they wanted to, but some of them want to come to the United States and they want to ask for asylum so they can stay here long term. Would he be in favor of administering that kind of thing, or would he just be like, your claims are full of crap? You were rich. You could have gone someplace else. You didn't have to come to the United States. It's not the United States' responsibility to be responsible for your welfare and your care. Fly to Paris or something for a while. Stay there, right? Even though they would probably go to France and ask France for the same thing. Thank you very much for the super chat, William. $5 from William. Nice to see Doug turn into Ray Comfort with the "if you've ever told a lie, you're a liar" shtick. Yeah.
That's not them being full of shit. That is an administration.
Why are you white knighting this so much? I mean, it's just a phrase.
He thinks I'm like, at this point, this is how brain dead this guy has gotten. The brain rot has really fried him. I'm literally white knighting the courts. I'm white knighting the courts. The courts are not saying what Doug thinks. Doug thinks that the courts think like he thinks. So when they deny a case, they're like, "You're full of crap, loser. Couldn't prove your case? You're full of shit." Oh, that's what I'm arguing. That is probably not an assumption that the courts are making. And it should not be an assumption that a fair-minded judge would make. That was my point. I'm white knighting. I agree. I'll admit that. I'm not white knighting the asylum seekers. I'm literally white knighting the courts and the judges. Oh my God, Jesus.
You have such feel sorry for them.
No, this is just one of those.
For the judges, yes, because they have to deal with Doug. They have to deal with conservatives that think and speak like Doug, that take the meanings of things and twist it around and be like, well, you know what? When I say it, it means this. Neat. We're not in your safe space. I'll just repeat what that one judge said to Alex Jones. Just because you believe it does not make it so.
Those things, as an administrator, you have to be careful about what you're talking about. What you're misrepresenting isn't the asylum seekers. You're misrepresenting the law. They don't decide that these people are up to something, or they're just they got a weak claim or something for whatever reason. And there's a lot of different little nuanced ways that they get disqualified. They don't hit the mark.
Yeah, Doug's answer all depends on what would trigger you most. Yeah. Quote, "No, I've only found this channel recently to watch Darth Dawkins' meltdowns. Is Jefferson a liberal, social democrat? I'm a socialist, leading communist. So let's see. Did poor Doug have his dog eaten by an evil immigrant from the south of Tucson? No. I'll take a break in this one because I think this is just kind of going in the same kind of direction as, he hasn't really cut this. This is just that section of it. But I did like that he put in hashtag feel sorry for ism. Feel sorry. I do feel sorry for courts and administrators. I take phone calls from people who have the same kind of the thought processes, that same thinky pain that Doug seems to be suffering from. And when I see it, it's just like, huh. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything for that. There's this bit here. I can give Jefferson some amount of leeway here. Saying they are full of shit does generally imply they're intentionally lying. Yes, which was my point. which not all of them are. I think a question that should have been asked is, given that 70% are rejected, how many of them do you think were full of shit? And I'd be curious as to how many he actually thinks are dishonest versus just not knowing what's actually necessary to claim asylum. What I actually think is interesting here are some of his replies. This one, Doug answers him and says, I actually think very few who actually go to their court cases are lying. Full of shit used in that sense. However, if 70% of those who do go to their court case are rejected, what percentage of those who don't go to their court case would be rejected if they did go? Now we're using full of shit in that sense of deception. He never asked, this never came up in the conversation. If he were to ask me, what do you think of an asylum? Actually, it may have come up in the conversation. What do you think of an asylum seeker who gets that court case and doesn't go? I believe I explained to him, if they don't show up, a bench warrant is issued for them immediately. Yeah, we did talk about that because I think he made the response like, well, what do you think the chances are of them actually finding that person? Like, I don't know what the chances are of them finding that person, but if that person is caught, they're gone. Like, not only are they going to get deported, but they're going to be deported and probably stamped with that status that does not allow them to ever come back. Like, they can't do anything to even attempt to ask to become a migrant or an asylum. They're done, at least according to the current laws. This guy says, I mean, yeah, Doug, you were being pretty provocative here, but Spatchcock acting like these were just administrative errors. Didn't say that. And that people didn't know what they were talking about. Yeah, that's a stretch. If you have individuals that are showing up for an asylum hearing, and many of them, I believe, end up representing themselves, you will have errors. But that's not what I was blaming this on. I'm talking about individuals who may actually fit the definition. If we were to surveil their life and look at the history of their movement from their home country to the United States, we could say, yep, they meet the status of a refugee. But barring that knowledge, barring that experience, the only thing that we can rely on is the facts and evidence that they bring into their asylum court case. And if they don't have enough, it's not ruled in their favor. There's a difference between being able to prove it and whether or not it actually is so. I didn't think that people were this hard-headed about this kind of stuff, but apparently Doug is. So, and then there's just some weird stuff. Somebody says his channel. Yeah. Wait, was that who I think it was? So, yeah. If anybody's interested, this is a small portion of it. The almost 4-hour component of this. We talked for about 2.5 hours in a very long video available on my channel. If you're interested in seeing this and other portions of it, I would recommend, I think he gives somebody this advice. You can just click on the transcript function, and then you can track down certain words and key phrases. We ended up talking about quite a bit. The COVID section. Whew. Okay. Let's see. PineCreek Doug continues to demonstrate why he is atheist jail. He continues to make us all very proud. I mean, he's really running into it. The COVID-19 portion is the best. I don't think that we'll see shorts based on the COVID-19 one. I'm just thinking that we won't. But actually, I think with this one, it's about 45 minutes. I think I'm going to wrap it up there and keep this one kind of short and then try to get another one in tomorrow night if I can. So I'm going to be back, I think, with some more Darth Dawkins content because like I said this a while ago, there is some shorter content coming out from somebody who's been following his shenanigans over on TikTok. Some of them aren't really all that interesting. It's a lot of, it has been repetitive stuff from him for a long time now, but if I find some that are kind of interesting, especially if I can find ones that are really recent and election related, I do want to get into those. So the other thing I should let everyone know, I wasn't sure if Doug was going to show up for this, but I do know for a fact, I've been able to confirm it with a few people here, my brother being one of them, that Doug has blocked me from being able to comment on any of his stuff. So I can no longer interact with any of these videos or shorts that he makes about me. And he did just make a new short. I think it was around the same time. I think he must have been going through this video and picking stuff out. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but I may have been blocked when he came on the show. So I'm not exactly sure. So yeah, if anyone's interested, if you were hoping that there was going to be more conversations between me and Doug, there won't. Not unless he unblocks me, and even then, I'll probably just block him right back. Let's see. Jefferson getting the Michael treatment from Doug the Spineless. I mean, it is really kind of weird. He's made a decent amount of content out of this. Maybe it doesn't get the amount of streams he likes, because some of the shorts really didn't. And some of his own fans, like my brother mentioned, had kind of pushed back on it. One guy did on the other video. He's like, he's not talking about the rich, that was the rich guy versus the poor guy. That they're exactly the same, but one has $10 million and one has like $100. Like, which one do you let in? And the fact that Doug would not accept the idea that I'm talking about one's capacity to do evil, Doug had to make it about their potential to do evil. And he's like, no, but they're exactly the same, but then twist it around to say, well, one of them is going to end up on food stamps more than the other. I'm like, not based on anything internal. I mean, at least they can't. So, all right, folks, I will leave it there. But any of these are out there. If you do see PineCreek around, let him know. If he's interested in any of my comments. There were people that were asking questions on his shorts, and I provided answers. Did they go through? No, because their Papa PineCreek is denying them information. It's a terrible thing. Terrible thing. But, I mean, what do you expect from a Nazi? I mean, a fascist. I mean, Mennonite weirdo. Whatever it is. Anyway, folks, I'm going to get out of here as soon as I recognize this one. Thank you very much for the $2. Viva Hernando. Free speech, absolutist, pine cone, Dave. Yeah. I'm like, I believe everybody has the right to speak their mind, but never to my face and never to any of my followers on my channel. All right, folks, I'm going to get out of here. I will be back with more content later. Take it easy, everybody. And thank you all again for the super chats. And remember to vote. Again, resources are in the description. Go vote and encourage others to vote as much as you can. And not for Trump. So I'm going to leave it with this. Doug's got big bitch energy. Thank you, Maya. Take care, everybody. Good night.